私が慰めてあげよっか。
だからそういうのやめろって言ってんだろ。
結構おっぱい大きいと思うんだけど。
女子高生にしてはでかいかもしれないけど。も
っとすごいんだ。何カップくらいなの？
多分 F くらいは。
F だったら私と同じだよ。
それ F もあんのか？
触れない H カップより触れる F カップの方が良くない？
そんなに俺を誘惑してどうしたいんだよ。
What's it like when you come home every day to a beautiful girl affectionately calling you daddy? The man was just getting ready to go home after a drink when he unexpectedly met a JK girl under a utility pole. Without even waiting for the man to speak, the girl asks to sleep with him. The man has just been dumped by his boss just a few minutes ago. He is looking forward to confessing his love to his boss, but he already has a boyfriend. That's why he went drinking. The first thing you need to do is to get your hands on a new one, and you'll be able to do it. The girl in front of him is a high school student, or a minor. The man told the girl to stop fooling around and go home. The girl did not agree. She said it was late and she had no money for a bus or a hotel. She wanted to board with the man for the night and hoped he could take her in. The man froze. What kind of girl wants to stay in a strange man's house right away? And he doesn't know the other person. Seeing that the man seems to want to refuse, the girl jumped ahead and said that she could sleep with the man. It's a good idea to pay the man his rent, she said. The man is stunned. Nowadays girls are so active. The man's life has been a long time in the making, and he's been a good friend to his family, he says. The man, who has been working all day and has suffered a tragic loss of love, lies down on the bed and prepares to sleep, but the girl took the initiative to undress and pounced on him. This scene would be exciting for everyone, but the man refused and said he did not like children. The girl asked the hero if there was anything else he wanted to do. The man casually said miso soup. After that, the hero fell into a deep sleep. Early the next morning, the hero woke up from his sleep and realized that it was his day off. He wanted to lie back on the bed and sleep some more, but there was an aroma coming from the kitchen. The next thing that happens is that the girl appears in the doorway of the room. After realizing that he was the one who brought the person home, the hero couldn't believe that he could do such a thing. Looking at the girl's cute appearance, he asked the girl if he had done anything bad to him last night. The girl listened with a resigned face. The guy was scared to death and thought that this time he must be finished. But the girl says that last night the guy kept emphasizing that he wouldn't do anything out of the ordinary to a high school student, so he didn't do that kind of thing to her. Looking at the miso soup in front of him, the hero was still in a bit of a trance, so the girl helped him remember something about late-night polls and JK girls. As soon as he sat down, the girl unbuttoned her chest. The girl walked up to the male lead and said she would do anything. Before the male lead could refuse, the girl wrapped her arms around his neck. The male lead gritted his teeth and pushed the girl away and called her a crazy person. At the same time, he asks the girl her name. The girl says her name is Sayu, and wonders why she said her real name this time. After careful questioning, the hero realizes that she ran away from Hokkaido and hasn't been home for half a year. In the meantime, she has been living in someone's house by selling her body. The man was furious after hearing this and said that he was not interested in her body, but he can let her stay with him temporarily. However, in exchange, Sayu has to take care of all the chores in the house. To make Sayu's stay comfortable, the hero takes her to the mall to buy clothes. He also bought a mattress for her to sleep on along the way. However, the male lead's dedication makes Sayu not know how to repay him. The male lead sees her concern and says that in the meantime, all she needs to do is for Sayu to clean the house. She's made his time at the house quite easy, so all of this is what Sayu deserves. Hearing this, Sayu no longer struggles, and the new mattress she bought made her love it. With Sayu's careful attention, rumors are gradually spreading in the company that the hero has a girlfriend, because now he is well dressed and looks superb, and he's now coming home on time. After working overtime, this also managed to catch the attention of his female boss. So on this day after work, Goto even asked the male lead out to ask him if he has a girlfriend, but this makes the male lead very puzzled. Obviously he had just confessed his love to her not long ago and was rejected, and the bottom line is that it doesn't seem to be any of Goto's business whether he has a girlfriend or not. Goto, however, says that the guy she just rejected is immediately snatched up by another woman. This upsets her, so she wants to know if the guy has a girlfriend now or not. To be fair, Goto also lets the male lead get to ask her a question as well. In that case, the male lead says he's not in a relationship. As for the rumors spreading around the company, they're all just guesses from his coworkers. After hearing the male lead's answer, Goto also breathed a sigh of relief. Then it was the hero's turn to ask a question. He actually asked Goto what her bra size was, and to add insult to injury, Goto actually answered with an eye. On the train ride home, the main character was thinking. He couldn't understand why Goto had invited herself to dinner. The previous reason must be her random excuse, and she doesn't seem like the kind of woman who would cheat on her. The hero just couldn't figure it out. He went back to his apartment with a gloomy face. Sayu also sees that something is wrong with the male lead and plans to give him a loving hug. With Sayu's comfort, the hero's mood improved. Then He remembers that he also prepared a gift for Sayu. Sayu opens it and realizes it's a cell phone. It turns out that Sayu has never had a cell phone, making it difficult for him to keep in touch. Although the gift was expensive, she had to accept it for the sake of easy contact. The two of them then added each other as friends. On this day, Sayu woke up from a nightmare. Looking at the sleeping Hirou, her mind was filled with thoughts. It's been almost a month since she came here. She was in the middle of a long journey, and nothing had happened between her and the main man. If it were before, she wouldn't know how many times she'd been forced by men. Because of this, Sayu gradually developed an inexplicable feeling for the male lead. This day at work, the male lead also, for the first time ever, put off a business trip. Combined with the fact that he always leaves work on time these days, the co-workers on the sidelines seriously suspect that he has a girlfriend. However, the male lead lied and said he had a delivery coming in, which is why he put off the assignment. But who would believe such a reason? This made Mishima, who was on the sidelines, even more sure that the male lead had a girlfriend, so she kicked him in the face angrily. Turns out, Mishima is a junior in the male lead's band, and she's always had a crush on him. To show her feelings, Mishima wants to treat him to a movie. In this way she repays the hero for his help in getting her work done. The hero wants to refuse, but the tickets are bought, so he has no choice but to go along. On his way out the door, he bumps into the leader of his crush, but he just said hello and left. This makes Go to feel a little lost. Meanwhile, Sayu waited at home for the male lead to get off work. Very uneasy inside, she flopped onto her bed thinking, if the male lead has a girlfriend, will he kick himself out like the man before him? Just then, the cell phone on the table suddenly rang. She opened it, but it was a message that the main man was going to the movies with his colleagues, which made Sayu very lost. She is curious to know if the person watching the movie with the male lead is a man or a woman, so she plans to go out and sneak a peek. On the other hand, the male lead and Mishima finished watching the movie. Walking back, they came to an alley. Mishima hugs the male lead when he's not looking. This scene was just seen by Sayu, who was hiding behind a telephone pole. She can't do anything about it, so she turns around and walks away. The male lead, who had come back to his senses, pushed Mishima away. He rubbed his head helplessly. He thought it was a small fight that the younger generation was having with him, so he didn't pay attention to it. In the blink of an eye, the male lead had returned home, but after turning on the lights, he realized that Sayu was nowhere to be found. The anxious hero rushes out of the apartment and rushes to look for him. Meanwhile, Sayu is sitting alone on a park bench. She can't stop her tears from falling when she thinks about what she just saw. Then, coincidentally, Mishima appears in front of Sayu. When she learns that Sayu has run away from home, Mishima decides to sit down and talk to her. Sayu says that she has someone at home who is incredibly gentle with her, but she is harboring a secret in her heart that she can't tell that person. She feels that if she tells, she will be abandoned mercilessly, so she is very upset right now. Hearing this, Sayu also figured it out. She plans to show her all to the guy when she gets back, and that's when the male lead came looking for her. Mishima realizes that the person Sayu was talking about is actually the male lead. After parting with Mishima, the two return to the apartment, and Sayu may have overunderstood Mishima's advice. She actually takes off her entire body and stands in front of the male lead. She wants to stay in this way, so she decides to offer her body voluntarily. The male lead was furious at hearing this. He had already said that he would kick Sayu out of the apartment if she dared to tempt him again. However, Sayu is also devastated, because all the men she has met so far, without exception, desire her body. Only the male lead, however, doesn't have the slightest idea about himself, so she seriously suspects that the male lead has a hidden disease. This time the male lead is not happy. What kind of man would not be interested in this kind of thing? He's just repressing his desires. The man's desire is just repressed. He says, the main character, Sayu, has her own problems. Because she ran away from home, she wants to survive outside, so she can only live in someone else's house. But if this is discovered, she will be arrested. So she had to show enough favor to be taken in. Though at first, she was very annoying, but after a few times, she became numb. Even when she was needed, the emptiness inside her had the feeling of being filled. Of course, if her presence did more harm than good, she was mercilessly cast out. She just keeps going in this cycle. So Sayu doesn't understand that she can't give the male lead anything but her body, but the male lead is willing to risk so much to take in herself. She then feels that the male lead is too good to her, making her a bit overwhelmed. The male lead said that although Sayu was very cute, he didn't fall in love with Sayu. He never wanted to go and have sex with a girl he didn't like. So, Sayu also understood the male lead's feelings. After she turned around and got dressed, the two of them sat opposite each other. The male lead once again invited Sayu to stay here, at least until she goes home. This makes Sayu very touched, and from this moment on, they start living together for real. On this day, Sayu approached the male lead and said with a solemn face that she wanted to go for a part-time job. He said he wanted to work part-time, but he didn't hesitate to say yes. This surprises Sayu. because the prerequisite for her to stay here is to do her housework. However, the male lead says that the housework is already done well. Sayu going out to work will make her feel lighter instead. So the next day, Sayu goes to work at the neighborhood convenience store. She makes her first friend here, Asami. At the end of the shift, Asami learns that Sayu is now living with her brother, so she clamors to visit her home. There's nothing else to do, so after sending a message to inform the hero, Sayu brings Asami to the house. The two of them have been waiting at the house for a long time when the male lead gets off work. Asami introduced herself very skillfully. While Sayu was cooking, Asami chatted with the male lead. During the conversation, Asami was able to tell that the two were not brother and sister by the look in the male lead's eyes. So when she went back, she purposely asked the male lead to walk her out. She exposed their lies and asked the male lead what their relationship was. Hearing this, the male lead is silent for a long time. The male lead says that he won't say anything without authorization about what Sayu wants to hide down. With these words, Asami also realized that the hero was a good person. She then reminds the male lead that Sayu is very good at using fake smiles to hide himself, so he must keep an eye out for it. The next day at the end of the day, Goto invites the hero out to dinner again. This is very puzzling to the male lead. She had clearly rejected his confession, and still asked him out 3 times. Goto blushed a little and once again asked the hero if he had a girlfriend, and the male lead learned smartly this time. Before answering the question, he wanted to know why Goto cared so much about herself. Goto said that her words before were all lies. In fact, she's also had a crush on the male lead for over 2 years. The reason why she rejected the male lead was because she had a premonition. Even if she said yes to the guy at that time, their relationship wouldn't go well. That's why she made up a lie and rejected him. The male lead couldn't believe it when he heard it and thought that Goto must be playing a trick on him. Unless Goto sleeps with herself to prove it's true. The scene instantly became incredibly awkward after this statement. The two were silent for a long time. In the end, it was the male lead who spoke up first. He said that it was very hard for him to be fooled by his favorite person. In the future, he will not confess to Goto, and he asked Goto to confess to himself in turn when the time is right. Meanwhile, on the other side, Sayu is eating alone at home. Then, the male lead sends a message. When she learns that the male lead is going to bring Goto home, Sayu is devastated and collapses to the ground. She thought she was going to be abandoned again. But just then, the male lead sends another message. Turns out, it was just Goto wanting to come and meet Sayu. Looking at the older sister in front of her, Sayu couldn't help but tell her all about her experience. She specifically mentioned the image of the male lead rejecting her. Goto couldn't help but smile when she heard this. She knew this was a serious topic, but when she thought of the scene where the male lead rejected Sayu, she found it especially funny. However, after laughing, Goto was happy for the place where Sayu could find a place to settle down, but it wasn't an option for her to keep living here. After all, taking in a minor could land the hero in jail if he was reported, so it's okay for her to take her time, but she has to figure out what to do in the future. Sayu also understands that Goto's words. She said that she had an environment that she wanted to escape from no matter what, and that environment still exists today. She can't help but feel like throwing up just thinking about it. She can only slowly accept what happened before now. After she figured it out, she would leave this place and go back to where she came from. On the other hand, the male lead, who was sent away by the two to go shopping, actually meets his offspring halfway. Mishima claims that he was in the neighborhood to see a movie and that's why he was there. When she realizes that the male lead is going shopping, she offers to go with him, and after coming out of the shopping, Mishima suddenly calls out to the male lead. She asks the male lead if he would agree if she wanted to stay at the male lead's house for the night, but the male lead says that why would he let a woman who is not even a lover stay over? As for why Sayu can, it's because he's just acting as her guardian. But then Mishima asks Goto why she can. It turns out that her explanation of going to the movies earlier was all a lie, and she showed up there because she followed the two, so she saw Goto go to the male lead's house. Mishima knew that it was bad behavior for her to follow the two and was sorry for that, but the thought of the male lead hiding something and not telling her made her very sad. After hearing this, the male lead didn't blame Mishima. He told her the whole story. After hearing this, Mishima let go and left. After returning home, Goto was actually putting makeup on Sayu. Looking at the beautiful Sayu, the male lead froze a bit. When it's time to go, Goto tells the hero that she will always support him, whether it's about Sayu or work. She'll always be there for the male lead. On this day, Sayu still comes to work at the convenience store. She saw a familiar name on the schedule on the wall. Just as she was recalling who it was, a man's voice came from behind her. She turns around and is frozen in her tracks. Turns out he's the man she lived with before. Sayu is terrified and rushes to explain that he's got the wrong guy, but Ishiguchi says that he can't possibly forget the woman he slept with. Just when Sayu is at a loss for words, Asami bursts in and helps her out. After work, Sayu walks home, but she doesn't realize that Ishiguchi has been waiting at the intersection for a long time. He guesses that Sayu must still be boarding at some guy's house and wants to go to the hero's house to sit down. Sayu, of course, does not agree. but Ishiguchi threatens Sayu. If she doesn't take herself home, he'll tell Asami what happened before. Hearing this, Sayu's pupils dilate and her whole body trembles. For the sake of her hard-won friend, she had to send a message to tell the hero. Then, she brought Ishiguchi to her home. After a conversation, Ishiguchi finds it unbelievable, because Sayu has been living here for 2 months now. It's amazing that the male lead hasn't made a move on her yet. Ishiguchi came to Sayu's side and tried to force himself on her. Saying that, Ishiguchi came to Sayu and tried to force himself on her. Sayu wanted to resist, but thinking of the hero and Asami, she acquiesced to Ishiguchi's behavior. Luckily, the hero came back in time. Looking at Sayu with tears in her eyes, the hero threw Ishiguchi out the door. He warns Ishiguchi to stay away from Sayu. However, Ishiguchi laughed at the male lead. How dare he make a high school girl do the chores? Is he trying to play house at home? And it was Sayu's own words to exchange bodies to get a sleepover. What's wrong with him enjoying himself honestly? Saying this, Ishiguchi gets even more excited. He stated that the male lead is just a hypocrite. Don't think that saving a high school girl is good for your ego. What's more, it's still a crime for him to take in a minor, but the male lead says that he doesn't want to form a wrong misinformation for Sayu, so he won't do anything to Sayu. After dropping off Ishiguchi, the male lead returns home. Sayu cries and says that she used to live in Ishiguchi's house for a long time, but the person she was just now felt very scared for some reason. Hearing this, the hero comes forward and hugs Sayu. He tells Sayu that it's normal to be scared, and that she's done a great job of refusing this time. He tells Sayu to think about herself. The first time I saw this was when I was a kid, and it was the first time I'd ever seen a kid in the world, he said. The first day of the year, Sayu was at home cleaning the house. The man wants to help, so he picks up the bedding and heads to the balcony. The first time I saw him, I was so happy to see him, but I didn't want to see him again. She also told him that she would do the housework for him. However, the hero thinks it's okay for him to help out a little. What's more, it's a day off, so he plans to get up again. The two of them are in the middle of the night, and they're not sure what to do with each other. At night, the two are out shopping. On the way home, they see a summer festival. The male lead then decides to take Sayu there to relax. So, on the day of the event, Sayu wears a beautiful kimono, but the hero can't even look at her. Sensing that something is wrong, Sayu takes the initiative to show off her perfect body. At the same time, she asks the main character if she's pretty. The male lead's answer is of course very beautiful. At that moment, a child is running with a marshmallow, and Sayu is envious. The man in the room rushes to buy one for her. Sayu walks around and eats it, not forgetting to tear off a piece and bring it to the hero's mouth. The touch between her lips and fingers made her heart beat faster. Just then, a kid came out of nowhere and bumped into Sayu. The two of them are holding hands with each other. Watching the beautiful fireworks in the sky, the hero was thinking a lot about what would have happened if he hadn't met Sayu. If he hadn't met Sayu, he would still be living a boring life. The sound of the fireworks brought him back to reality. When he came back to his senses, he realized that Sayu had disappeared. This moment, he panicked and rushed to shout out Sayu's name. It wasn't until he saw Sayu appear again that the hero realized that he couldn't seem to stay away from Sayu. Then, he asked Sayu if she really wants to go back. However, as soon as he said it, he regretted it. He wanted to make Sayu forget what he just said. However, it was clear that Sayu wasn't going to let this opportunity go. So, she pursued. Why did he ask that? Did he not want to go back by himself? The man still didn't say what he wanted to say, and advised Sayu to go back earlier. The next day, the doorbell of the apartment was rung early in the morning. When he opens the door, he sees that it's Sayu's brother. He has come to take Sayu home. He comes up and questions the two if they have any kind of illicit relationship. After getting a unanimous denial, the brother then lets go. He says that after Sayu ran away from home, her mother has been worried. But Sayu doesn't believe it at all. She knows her mother very well. That woman must have an ulterior motive for worrying about herself. She knows her mother very well, and that woman must have an ulterior motive for worrying about her. In fact, the homeroom teacher has visited her home several times since Sayu ran away from home, and the mother was afraid of making a big deal out of it. She had to use her daughter's reluctance to come out of her room as an excuse to drive the homeroom teacher away several times. As a result, the school authorities suspected that the mother had placed Sayu under house arrest. To clear up this misunderstanding, the mother then wanted to let Sayu back. Listening to his brother's explanation, the hero seriously suspects that his mother is only worried about what the outside world thinks. The male lead felt that she never considered what Sayu thought. However, he, an outsider, couldn't interfere too much. He just wished for a few more days of grace, as he felt that Sayu needed time to think. So, his brother wanted to talk to Sayu alone. In the car, his brother said that their mother has become mentally unstable since the incident. Sayu's running away from home has made her worse, so he can buy a week at most. He hopes that Sayu can use this week to think it over. After returning to the apartment, Sayu called her friend Asami. She tells the reason why she ran away from home in front of the two of them. Sayu has not gotten along well with her mother since before, and as a result she is very withdrawn. Everyone around her kept their distance, but one day, a girl named Jeko approaches her. The two of them, who share the same personality, soon become close friends. With Jiezi's company, Sayu was really happy during that time. However, the good times didn't last long. The two of them have been in the same situation for a long time, and they are really happy together. It turns out that Sayu rejected a boy's confession earlier, and the boy's suitor saw that Sayu wasn't easy to bully, so she turned to Jiezi. She thought that she could get over it after 2 days, but the abusers got worse and went further and further. When she looks at Sayu, who has become sad because she is worried about her, Chiko chooses to end her life on the rooftop. After the incident, Sayu's home was surrounded by reporters. The mother was supposed to be her backbone, but instead of giving her the most basic comfort, she suspects that Jiezi was pushed down by Sayu. This statement made Sayu completely broken. In the end, she chooses to run away from home. Before she left, her brother gave her 300,000 mora and told Sayu to contact him if she was in danger. However, in less than half a month, she spent all her moolah. She didn't want to go home, so she threw away her cell phone and started wandering around. She meets her first man when she is penniless. Since then, Sayu has been selling her body to get a place to stay. It's not until she meets the main guy that the trade ends. After hearing about Sayu's experience, both of them feel very sorry for her. After thinking it over, Sayu decides to go home with her brother. The night before she leaves, she once again gets under the hero's blanket. The man's face is calm and he doesn't react. It's not like she's so adorable. If anything, it must be the hero's self-control that's too strong. Saying this, Sayu turned around and hugged him, and now the man finally reacted, but only a little bit. Today is the last night that Sayu will be staying at the hero's house, and tomorrow she will be going back to her hometown with her brother. She was really a little upset. If she could, she really wanted to be with the hero forever. Looking at the somber-looking Sayu, the hero slowly turned his body. He said that he would accompany her to Hokkaido. He knows that Sayu must be scared to go back alone, so he plans to take care of her until the end. On the second day, the three of them boarded the plane home together. Sayu, who didn't sleep well during the night, leans back in her chair and falls asleep. But the main character's talk with her brother wakes Sayu up. She reconfirms to the male lead if he will accompany her home, but the male lead said that he can't skydive himself. Right? This comment instantly makes Sayu laugh, and her inner anxiety relaxes. After the plane landed, the three of them finally arrived in Hokkaido, and while driving home, Sayu suddenly says that she wants to visit the school. So, with her leading the way, the two of them walk through the narrow aisle and enter the school through a dog hole. Accompanied by the male lead, Sayu plucks up the courage to go to that rooftop again. The moment she rolled over the window, it was as if she saw Jeko's figure again. She stumbled over to the bench and fell to her knees. All week, thinking back to her past with Jiko, Sayu got up with an angry look on her face and grabbed the guardrail in front of her. She accused the school of building this earlier, so her friend might not have died, and failing to put herself in Jiko's shoes, she thinks she got her only friend killed. Hearing this, the hero rushes forward to pull Sayu back. Looking at her hand cut by the guardrail, he reassures Sayu that it's not her fault, because if there hadn't been schoolyard bullies, Jejo would have been alive and well, and it's all long gone, and she can only live a better life if she steps out of that shadow. In the end, with the hero's enlightenment, Sayu also completely unraveled her heart. At that moment, a breeze blew by, as if it was the last goodbye Jiezi had made to her. Afterwards, the three of them returned home, but what no one expected was that Sayu's mother came up and slapped her. Ignoring her image, she starts accusing and scolding in front of the male lead. Fortunately, her brother reminded her just in time before she noticed the outsider on the sidelines. When she learned that the male lead was Sayu's guardian on the outside, she moderated her attitude slightly. She then led a few people to the living room. The mother opens her mouth and asks Sayu what she really wants. She accused Sayu of causing too much trouble by running away from home. Instead of reflecting on why her daughter ran away from home, she calls the hero a criminal. How dare he take in Sayu in his house when he knows she is a minor? Sayu says that the hero was very good to her. He not only gave her a place to stay, but also corrected his own twisted mind. More than her mother, the hero is like her real family. Looking at her daughter who is arguing with herself for an outsider, the mother is also very angry. She accuses Sayu of being too willful and that she has lost a lot of things herself because of her running away from home. She also said that if she had known this, she shouldn't have given birth to Sayu. And hearing these words, the crowd froze. Sayu was even made to cry by the heart-stopping words. The male lead just couldn't watch anymore. He picked up the tea on the table and wanted to splash it, but when he thought it was wrong, he had to drink the water. The main character said that parents can't choose their children, but in the same way, children can't choose their parents, so no matter what, Sayu only has one mother. If he could, he would raise Sayu himself, but he's not qualified. Hearing this, the mother finally moved. The hero gets up and walks over to his mother, kneeling down and asking her to raise Sayu properly. The older brother followed suit and knelt down as well. Looking at the two kneeling, the mother's emotions began to break down and she yelled for the men to get out. When his brother saw this, he had to tell the two to go back to the house for a while and he would take care of things afterward. After arriving outside the house, the male lead shed tears uncontrollably. He didn't realize that Sayu's mother was actually like this. Looking at the male lead who fought for himself, Sayu couldn't help but overflow tears from the corner of her eyes. I don't know how long it took, but after calming down, the two of them held hands. They leaned together and enjoyed the last sweet moments. Then, the brother walked out. He told the two that he had already discussed it with his mother. She will do her duty as a guardian until Sayu graduates from high school. However, it's up to the two of them to work together on how mother and daughter should get along. After everything is over, the male lead will be going back tomorrow, and he will be staying at Sayu's house tonight. That night, Sayu once again sneaks into the hero's room in the middle of the night. Then the next second, she was discovered by the hero. Since she's going to be separated from the male lead tomorrow, Sayu doesn't want to miss their last night alone together. She stuck close to the male lead and expressed her reluctance. The male lead refuses to admit that he doesn't want to be separated from her either. The two of them have been in the same place for a long time, but they have been in the same place for a long time. The two of them looked at each other. Looking at the shy girl, the hero's heart starts to beat faster. Sayu said, "Since it's the last time, let's sleep together," because she doesn't want the hero to forget her. Hearing this, the male lead hurriedly got up and refused, because even if he doesn't do this kind of thing, there's no way he can forget about Sayu. In this half year of living together, the two have long been in love as husband and wife. Sayu were moved to tears. She hugged the male lead, and as she wiped away her tears on her clothes, she said to the male lead, "Do you want to touch it?" The fact that the man is a little bit helpless. The next morning, Sayu went to the airport to see the male lead off. Seeing that the male lead is about to check in, Sayu told the male lead about her feelings. The male lead smiles a bit after hearing this and says that he'll seriously consider it when Sayu is independent enough. Only, by that time, he'll probably be an old man himself, saying that she'll wait until she's mature enough to go to the male lead. Till then, she will never go to see the male lead. Looking at the Sayu in front of him, the male lead eventually failed to say his feelings, but as soon as he arrived home, he couldn't help but shed tears. And from then on, the male lead once again returned to the same boring life as before. The 2 years passed quickly. The man was returning home from work as usual. He was still at the familiar intersection, under the utility pole, when he met a woman again, but this time, it's not a young girl in a JK outfit, but one who's mature enough to be a woman. It's still the same encounter as in the beginning, but this time, the two should not be separated. Hopefully, they will live happily ever after. Well, that's it for today's video. Thanks for your support. We'll see you next time.